As you know, there's a very strong man in Canada who said he was going to charge a surcharge or a tariff on electricity coming into our country. He has called and he said he's not going to do that. Okay, he's not going to do that. And it would have been a very bad thing if he did. And he's not going to do that, so I respect that.
I've agreed to suspend temporarily, and we always have that tool in our toolkit, until we sit down over the next day or two. I'll be heading down to Washington along with Dominic LeBlanc, and we'll have a good discussion.
Will you make a different decision now about the tariffs on Canada? Will you reduce it?
At that, but probably so, yeah. He was a gentleman.
That's a couple of voices there. Donald Trump, President of the U.S., and Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario. You know, it's a gosh darn soap opera, isn't it, right? It's a soap opera. How this just keeps changing every single second. I welcome Tasha Kheiriddin for some sober second thought on the matter. Of course, she's a writer and commentator. You can read her words in the National Post and on her Substack, among other places. Hi, Tasha. Welcome back.
Hi, Elias.
So,
I wish I was a drinker, because the sober piece, then I could just forget about everything. I'm not.
Just the tone, your tone there off the top, Tasha,
Sorry.
Said it all. But let me ask you this: what do you make? Let's start with Captain Canada, Doug Ford. I said it off the top of the show at 9:00 this morning. It's not lost on me. You know, Justin Trudeau took his chair and left Ottawa. He's technically Prime Minister, but he's not really right now. We're getting a swearing-in ceremony at best on Friday for Mark Carney. Then we'll be in an election. Prolonged period here of not really having a Prime Minister. And look who's stepped up to the plate, Doug Ford. What do you think about Captain Canada right now?
I think Doug Ford would love to be Prime Minister. In the meantime, he'll just act like one. Look, I think it's really interesting because Doug Ford has talked incredibly tough. He's gone to the American media. He's done really the rounds of all the American talk shows, which is where the president actually gets his news. He watches Fox. He watches all these shows. And so he's seen Ford over and over, chomping at the bit and wearing his little hat and Canada's not for sale. And I think he respects him because Ford comes from the same kind of, I would say, tough persona that Trump does. He's not like Trump. He's not as much of a weather vane, though he does change his mind frequently too. But I think that he's playing it right in the sense that he's not backing down, but he's backing down when he gets something in return. And that is what he's done here. And to restart the discussion of the USMCA, which is what they're going to do when they meet in Washington, is very significant because that's really where things will be worked out. Like all the tariff stuff is posturing essentially to get a deal. It's getting some money in Trump's pocket. It's making us a 51st state, all that stuff that he talks about. But at the end of the day, a permanent solution to avoid this seesaw will only be attained if we renegotiate our trade agreement. And if they're willing to start doing that, then victory for Ford, because that's where the waters will maybe start to calm and we'll stop this crazy seesaw that we're on right now. Okay, so I'm taking great solace out of what you've said because it sort of seems like the tide has been turning where people didn't really take this that seriously. It's just 51st state talk. It's just this, and then it has turned, I think, over the last week or so to like, oh guys, this is serious. This is bad. These tariffs are bad. We're going to get dinged here. And now you're saying where I think I began a long, long time ago is that this is all just the preamble to a real negotiation. So, yeah. I'm hoping it is. We'll know. This is the thing, is that the 51st state stuff, Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary for Trump yesterday, was very clear going on and on about how, she slammed Quebec for its tax rates and said how much better off we'd all be in America. So there's definitely something to the annexation bit, and I don't discount that at all. I do think that there is an agenda, but the real issue right now, that's something that would take time and agreement, and the American people aren't even on board. So I think the real issue is trying to get off this seesaw, because I don't know about you, but I'm looking at my stock portfolio. It's dropped precipitously in the last few days. I'm not happy. I'm sure a lot of people on the state side aren't happy. They're going to start complaining to Trump. It's going to affect him in the midterms in 2026. Yeah. So I think that, I'm hoping anyway that this is all, like I said, it's deal making, it's posturing. that there's some end that we can get off the seesaw, because if we don't, this is just going to wreck our economies, both sides of the border.
Avert your eyes, Tasha. Don't look is my advice there. With Tasha Kheiriddin, writer and commentator. Let's talk about the man who will be Prime Minister, Mark Carney. And, what he has to do right now on this. I don't know if you've got a crystal ball that can tell our listeners when we will be in an election campaign and how that shakes out, because at this very contentious time, not lost on me, prorogation, now this flux, and then an election campaign back to back to back. I don't think that's good if you want to negotiate with the U.S. What say you on Mark Carney and where we go from here?
Well, no, I mean, I had made a pitch for having a unity government with everyone at the table, all the parties at the table in a sort of unity cabinet for a period of a few months, and I got ratioed incredibly on Twitter.
So I saw that on March. I saw that on March 4th. You published that piece, and I said, "Pray for Tasha."
Yeah, it was unbelievable. Well, okay, no one can get along. That's fine then. Plan B is what you're saying, which is that we won't have anyone really manning the store for a period of minimum 35, maximum 51 days, or is it 37 days? Anyways, over a month. Which is not good. Not good at this juncture. We know most of the tariffs are supposed to come in April 2nd. We've already got the ones coming today or tomorrow morning, rather, on aluminum and steel. So, it's not a good time to not have anyone there. That said, I think that Carney doesn't really have a choice but to go to an election for two reasons. One is he needs legitimacy to govern. If the other parties won't give it to him in the House, then, hey, he's got to get it. He doesn't have a seat in the House. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
And I think third, too, he has to put his stamp, and he has to, go to the people and either get a mandate or not, because otherwise a lot of people will see him as, Trudeau number 2. That's what the Conservatives call him. And unless he builds out a team that isn't all Trudeauites, then there's some credence to that. He's got to be able to, and an election is a chance to do that. Get new candidates, get new advisors, put different people in the window.
What wins out in this upcoming election? Is it fear of Trump, or is it fear of another decade of economic stagnation? Because it seems like those are the two options on the table. I'd love to know how you think it plays out as we go to the inevitable Carney versus Poilievre.
Yeah, so they're connected, and the last poll done by Nanos showed that when in an open-ended question, when people were asked what's the biggest issue right now that we're facing, 36% unprompted said Trump. That is huge. 29% unprompted said jobs in the economy. That was the second biggest. Everything else was in single digits and not very exciting. Climate change, everything. It's all falling off. So those are the two big issues. The question is, which of them will ultimately decide? And I think it's going to decide differently for different groups in Canada. I think a lot of people who are like me, the Gen X's, the boomers, looking at their house, their money, everything that they've worked for that's threatened by Trump, literally their country threatened by Trump. They have an attachment to this country. They're going, oh, my God, got to keep this guy at bay. That's going to benefit Mark Carney. Younger people who don't have any skin in the game because they can't even get a house. They can't, get a job. They're on the gig economy. They're not happy with the way things are. They may go more on the economic issue and say, I just want a good deal here. I want a fair shake at life. And they may be more favorable to Poilievre. And the polling has showed that young people have gone in spades to him. Now, I haven't seen breakdowns lately of demographics has that held, but I suspect if I were a young person, that would be my top of mind issue. Trump might be a little less because I have.
You want to buy a home. You want to buy a home. You want a home for your family.
Exactly. Whereas, a person like myself, I have a home. I don't want it to drop in value. It's a different perspective. To me, I'm being threatened for stuff I have. They don't have anything yet to protect.
Tasha, we'll leave it there. I'll direct our listeners to your latest piece in the National Post. It's called Carney's Boomer Bet Could Go Bust, if you want to hear more of Tasha's take on Mark Carney. Tasha, be well. We'll catch up again real soon.
Thanks, Elias.
That's Tasha Kheiriddin, writer and commentator right there.